Dogman tried to bite my face off. Welcome to Scary Stories. This time I've got a collection of short Dogman and werewolf narratives from people who had unpleasant encounters with these creatures or entities. The title of this video could apply to almost any of the short stories, but most especially the first one. All of them were sent to me anonymously, so for all I know, they might have been written by you. By the way, if you have your own true scary narrative about a werewolf or a dogman or cryptid, please feel free to send it to that email address shown on screen now. These are all pretty short tonight, which is why I've combined them together, since none is long enough to build an entire episode around. I do think they have a similarity to them though, and I hope you agree. If you're ready, let's begin with this first email. Story number 1. Dear Scary Stories NYC. I was in Tennessee visiting some cousins some decades back, when one of them introduced me to the world under that state. He told me that much of it has been closed off or deliberately caved in, but some of the people who've lived there for generations still knew a few intact underground passageways that they believe were created by an ancient and advanced race. I'm not kidding. They have all these beliefs about cave systems there only being partly natural and partly dug out intentionally by someone or something a very, very long time back in prehistory. Now, I don't know about the truth of any of that. I'm just saying that some of my cousins are really into this stuff, and that's what they believe. They know more about it than I ever will, so I'm not going to argue, even though I don't know if they're right. What I do know is that the Dogman is in Tennessee, or else a werewolf that looks like a dogman. I'll tell you how I know this to be a fact, too. I got so comfortable in the underground passageways that I'd been shown, that I started to go to one of them alone. This was stupid of me. Plus, I never even told anyone where I was going beforehand. Now, that's dumb even if you're going to the store, let alone exploring underground passageways. So I'm lucky I got out of there alive. By all rights, something absolutely terrible should have happened to me. Anyway, I had broken up with a girlfriend not long before, and I wandered alone in those tunnels, so I could feel sorry for myself with some privacy. I was very prone to moping when I was that age, but I didn't really want anyone to see that side of me. So I was down under the ground one day, shoegazing and thinking I was all alone in the world, when I heard a weird sound that should have made me turn around and head back the way I had come. But I was feeling a little too safe, and I was curious what that odd vibrating sound was, so I stepped closer. Well, you know, the Dogman was there, and it was he who was making that deep snarling sound. I'd say he ambushed me, but I walked right into it. He at once had his face on mine, backing me up against a wall. His head was the size of my torso. His teeth were the size of my head. I kind of squirmed away and under and around him, and he repositioned himself so his mouth was once again inches away from my face. The two of us played this very quiet game, where I tried to extricate myself from the Beastman, who was trying to freeze me in place with fear. I don't know why he hadn't already succeeded in that. I was certainly scared, but instead of freezing up, it had made me fidgety and nervous instead. The more the Dogman wanted me to hold in place so he could smell me better, the more I contorted my body to get away from him. There were multiple occasions where the creature could have bitten my head right off, and I think the only reason I'm still alive is that he wanted to examine me more closely before he devoured me. I think he felt a need to satisfy his curiosity before he had me for lunch. After all, he needed to make certain I was on his diet, didn't he? No, seriously, that's what it felt like. Maybe he would have decided not to eat me anyway, I don't know. I found a way to slip into a smaller passageway, and found that the Dogman was too large to follow me into where I was. Of course, I didn't know where I was going, and it was pure luck that I found my way back to the surface. That just wasn't the day I was fated to pass on. That's my only explanation. It was pure luck or fate, that saved my life. Because that creature had me dead to rights, and that Dogman wanted to bite my face right off. Story number 2. Hello, my name is Jake. I'm just an ordinary guy living in a small town in the Pacific Northwest. But something happened to me one night that I can't explain, and I can't forget. I was chased by something that defies all logic and reason. No, I'm not talking about Bigfoot either. It was late one summer night. The air was cool, and the moon was full. I was riding my bike home from my friend's house, taking the usual route through the dense forest that surrounds our town. The only sounds were the crunching of gravel under my tires and the occasional hoot of an owl. Suddenly I heard a rustling in the bushes behind me. I turned around expecting to see a deer or maybe a raccoon. But what I saw was something I could never have prepared for. It was huge, at least 7 feet tall, covered in thick matted hair. Its head was more like a wolf's than an ape's, with piercing yellow eyes that glowed in the moonlight. But the most terrifying part was its legs. They were muscular and long like a dog's, but it was standing upright, running on 2 legs. I pedaled faster, my heart pounding in my chest, but the creature was gaining on me. I could hear its heavy breathing, feel its presence looming closer and closer. I was sure I was going to be its next meal. Just when I thought I was done for, the headlights of an oncoming car pierced through the darkness. The creature let out a guttural growl and veered off into the woods, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. I didn't stop pedaling until I reached my house. I was shaking, drenched in sweat, and utterly terrified. But I was alive. I've told my story to anyone who would listen. Most people laugh it off, say I was seeing things or that it was just a bear. But I know what I saw. It was no bear. It was something else. Something not of this world. I still ride my bike through those woods, but never at night. And every time I hear a rustle in the bushes, I can't help but look over my shoulder, half expecting to see those glowing yellow eyes staring back at me. Story number 3. My name is Martha, a woman of a certain age, living in a quaint little town in New England. I've always been a bit scatterbrained, but I never thought my forgetfulness would lead to such a terrifying encounter. It was a sunny Tuesday afternoon, and I had decided to head into town for some shopping. In my haste, I didn't realize I left the back door of my house wide open until I was already on the road. I remember thinking, well, I'll be back soon, what's the worst that could happen? Little did I know, the worst was yet to come. When I returned home, arms laden with shopping bags, I unlocked the front door, and I pushed it open. The moment the door swung open, a monstrous creature bolted out. It was huge, hairy, and had a head that resembled a dog's more than a human's. Its eyes were wild, and its teeth bared, as it lunged at me, snapping its jaws just inches from my face. I fell backward in shock, my heart pounding in my chest. The creature leaped over me, its body casting a large shadow as it passed. It was then that I noticed its legs. They were more like a dog's legs, but it ran upright, like a man. I watched frozen in fear as the creature raced out of my house and disappeared into the woods behind my neighbor's home. I was left lying on my front porch, heart pounding, as I tried to comprehend what had just happened. From that day forward, I made sure to always double-check my doors before leaving the house. I never saw the creature again, but the memory of that day still sends shivers down my spine. Story number 4. My name is Redacted, a seasoned police officer in a small town in Wisconsin. I've seen a lot in my years on the force, but nothing quite like what I'm about to share. It was a typical night shift. and I was stationed along a stretch of highway notorious for speeding. The night was quiet, the moon was high, and the only sound was the occasional hum of a passing car. My shift was about to end, and I was about to call it a night, when my radar gun beeped, indicating a car going 75 in a 55-mile-per-hour zone. I was about to hit the sirens and take off after the speeder, when something caught my eye. A large hulking figure was chasing the car. It was a creature like nothing I'd ever seen before. It was bipedal, like a man, but it had the head of a wolf and the legs of a dog. It was running upright, and it was fast. I clocked it going around 60 miles an hour, which is faster than any animal I've ever seen. I was stunned, frozen in my seat. I watched as the creature chased the car down the highway, disappearing into the night. I sat there for a moment, trying to process what I had just seen. I thought about it, and if I chased after that monster thing, it would have likely turned around and bitten my face right off. And when I reached the pearly gates, and St. Peter asked me what bit my face off, I wouldn't even know what to tell him. So I decided then and there to pretend I hadn't seen anything. I didn't chase after the car. I didn't report the creature. I just sat there, in the quiet of the night, wondering what kind of world we live in, where such creatures exist. But they do exist. I know that now. I'll never admit it if you ask me to my face. But right now in this email, I'm telling you, the stories are true. Or true enough. There really are werewolves living in the woods of America. Story number 5. My name is Lisa, a retail worker in a bustling city in Ohio. I've been working at this department store for about 5 years now. It's not the most glamorous job, but it pays the bills. I've seen my fair share of strange things, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened one chilly evening in November. It was a typical day. The store was busy with customers, and I was on my feet all day. I was looking forward to taking my smoke break, a brief respite from the chaos inside. I stepped out the back door near the forest, the cool air a welcome relief. I lit up my cigarette and leaned against the wall, taking a moment to enjoy the quiet. Suddenly, I heard a rustling sound from the other end of the alley. I squinted into the darkness, trying to make out what it was. Then, out of the shadows, emerged a creature like nothing I'd ever seen before. It was massive, standing on 2 legs, and covered in thick, matted fur. But what struck me the most was its face. It was distinctly canine like a wolf, but the size of a bear. I froze, my cigarette dropping from my hand. The creature snarled, revealing a set of sharp, gleaming teeth. It lunged at me, and I barely had time to react. I stumbled backward, tripping over my own feet, and scrambled to get back inside the store. I slammed the door shut just as the creature reached it, its claws scraping against the metal. I could hear its growls even through the door. I was shaking, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I told my coworkers about the encounter, but they literally didn't believe me. They thought it was just a stray dog or maybe a bear. But I know what I saw. It was no ordinary animal. It was something else, something terrifying. I still take my smoke breaks, but now I take them out front on the street. Story number 6. My name is Tom. I'm a middle-aged man from a small town in Michigan. I've been married for 15 years and I have 2 beautiful children. But life, as it often does, had become a bit too much for me. I was feeling overwhelmed, trapped even, and one day, I decided to run away from my family. It was a cool, crisp evening when I packed a small bag and decided to leave my life behind. I didn't have a plan, just a desperate need to escape. I started running down the deserted road, the only sound being the crunch of gravel under my shoes. The moon was high in the sky, casting long shadows that danced around me. As I was running, I heard a rustling in the bushes. I stopped, my heart pounding in my chest. Out of the darkness, a monstrous creature emerged. It was massive, standing on two legs like a man, but with the head and body of a dog. Its eyes glowed in the moonlight, and it bared its teeth at me, a low growl rumbling from its throat. I was frozen in fear, my mind racing. The creature lunged at me, and I turned and ran back the way I came. I could hear it behind me, its heavy footsteps echoing in the night. I ran faster than I ever had before, my heart pounding in my ears. I saw the lights of my house in the distance, and I pushed myself to run even faster. I burst through the front door, slamming it shut behind me. I could hear that creature outside, its growls echoing in the night. I was safe, but I was also home. I looked around at the life I had tried to run away from. My wife, my children. These were my responsibilities. I realized then that running away was not the answer. I had to face my problems, not run away from them. The next day I sat down with my wife and we talked. We talked about our problems, our fears, our hopes. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I realized that I had been running from my responsibilities, and this conversation allowed both of us to turn a corner. I don't know what that creature was, or why it was chasing me, but I do know that it forced me to face my fears and my responsibilities. And for that, whether it meant to do that or not, I am grateful. Story number 7. Hello, I am a retired high school principal from a small town in Pennsylvania. I spent over 30 years in the education system. And let me tell you, it's not the paperwork or the politics that wear you down. It's the incessant noise of those children. Now don't get me wrong. I believe in the importance of education. But after decades of dealing with unruly kids, I have developed a certain distaste for the younger generation. So when I retired, I moved to a quiet neighborhood, hoping for some peace and tranquility. But as fate would have it, young families started moving in, and the once serene neighborhood was filled with the cacophony of children's laughter and screams. I was desperate for a solution, and that's when I first heard the stories about the Dogman. You see, the Dogman, a creature of local folklore, was said to be a large, hairy, wolf-like animal that roamed the woods surrounding our town. Some of my neighbors claimed to have seen it. Others dismissed it as a mere myth, but I saw it as an opportunity. I started leaving out meat in the woods, hoping to attract the Dogman. My hope was that the creature would multiply, and its presence would deter young families from settling in the area. It was a long shot, but I was desperate for some peace and quiet. Every night I would venture into the woods, leaving behind a trail of meat. I never saw the Dogman, but the meat would always be gone by the morning. I continued this routine for months, and slowly but surely, rumors of Dogman sightings started to multiply in the town. One night I actually ran into the beast, and it was quite an upsetting moment for me, as you can imagine. I didn't want the creature to come from me, only for innocent young families, that's all. But in a cruel twist of fate, I found myself being chased by the monster one night. The creature must have been 10 or 11 feet tall, and it made a growling noise so deep it tickled the bottoms of my feet as I ran away from it. I thought I was gonna die, but somehow God granted me the ability to run fast enough to get home and lock the door behind me. I looked out the window giggling, knowing that I had won. Since he couldn't eat me, Surely now that Dogman would take his aggression out on someone who deserved it more than I did. Someone like those annoying toddlers who live down the road, and their obnoxiously self-righteous parents. I can't say for sure if my plan worked, but the influx of young families has seemed to slow down. I do still hear children playing in the streets, but it's less frequent now and it stops before dark. On some nights when the moon is full and the air is still, I swear I can hear the distant howl of that Dogman, guarding our town from the pitter-patter of annoying little feet. Thank you, Dogman. Thank you for preserving my peace and quiet. You'll find more meat left for you in the woods again by the morning. For executive producers with some soul, try Valerie Gomez and Nicole. Please join me in thanking Valerie Gomez and Nicole for making a donation to the channel, which made this episode possible. Valerie and Nicole have been fans of the channel for a while, and we really appreciate their friendly, encouraging comments, as well as their donations, obviously. Thanks again, Valerie and Nicole. If you would like to help us stay online like Valerie and Nicole, then listen to what this next little fella has to say. Oh, Hank. Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that when it cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.